Welcome back to my channel, Famous and Fabulous. Terry Irwin's eyes filled with tears as she saw her cherished son go through a devastating transformation. Lovers are taken aback by using his current change from Aglad little boy, who changed into previously, following in his father's footsteps. What passed? Off to the renowned crocodile hunter's son, Terry Irwin, the loving wife of the past due. Steve Irwin has constantly been a rock for her family, along her youngsters Robert and Bindi. She has committed her life to upholding Steve's dedication to animal conservation as the matriarch of the Irwin circle of relatives' recent trends, but have left Terry extraordinarily distressed as her son Robert's stories, a startling exchange that has caught fans off shield. Robert became as soon as a glad, bold youngster who made everybody think about his father. However, his recent changes have raised questions and issues. Terry is in tears about his transformation, whether or not it's far the result of personal hardships, the needs of spotlight, or an unexpected exchange. In Heist's existence, whilst the sector saw Steve Songro to be a promising wildlife warrior, many at the moment are curious about Robert Irwin's whereabouts and the reasons for his mum's deep disappointment. Terry Irwin, Annie Rains, had already dedicated her lifestyles to animal protection before she had become the loved spouse of Steve Irwin, and a well-known international wildlife conservationist. She changed into rescuing injured animals in Oregon, managing her own wildlife rehabilitation center and constructing a career focused on conservation. Long before she ventured into the world of crocodiles and Australian wildlife. However, what added Terry to the center of Australia's zoo from a peaceful lifestyles in the United States, and the way did a single fateful experience modify her lifestyles' trajectory. For all time born on July 20th, 1964, in Eugene, Oregon, USA. Terry Irwin got here from a circle of relatives that loved the outdoors and adventure. Although her father, Clarence Rains, ran a trucking employer, he had a deep love for the outdoors and wildlife. Terry had a strong bond with animals. Throughout the tenting, fishing, and out-of-door studies he regularly took her and her siblings on. Terry wasn't frightened. The animals she noticed in assessment to maximum children. Rather, she located herself, pulled to them. She took it upon herself to take care of them, whether they had been a wounded rabbit, a lost kitten, or an injured hen. Her mom endorsed her daughter's interest, although now and again feeling overburdened via the growing range of animals in their domestic by the point she turned into a teenager. Terry had transformed her house into an unofficial animal shelter, being concerned for stray pets, tending to injured wildlife, and hoping to sooner or later commit her lifestyles to helping animals. She wanted to do more, though, because her enthusiasm did not stop there. Terry sought employment as a veterinary technician, acquiring practical experience in worrying for sick and injured animals because she changed into decided to make a distinction. Her paintings equipped her with the competencies and self-insurance she had to pursue. Her love Terry took a hazard in 1986 when she hooked up Cougar United States, a wildlife rehabilitation facility devoted to saving and treating injured predatory species, along with raccoons, bears, bobcats, and cougars. She needed to individually, generally tend to injured animals, rehabilitate them, and get them prepared for release, lower back into the wild as part of her tough process at Cougaroo. She gave loads of animals A to D danger at lifestyles via effectively rehabilitating them. Terry's efforts were, without delay, acknowledged via the natural world conservation community. She promoted moral flora and fauna conservation and habitat preservation, in collaboration with nearby government representatives, veterinarians, and animal welfare corporations. Notwithstanding having hooked up a hit profession in the United States, Terry's hobby in animal conservation outside of North America became rising. She preferred to develop her understanding of animal care globally, find out new locations, and choose up new competencies. She became unaware that her curiosity could carry her to a place and someone who would permanently modify her life. Terry turned into excited to experience Australia's one-of-a-kind natural world and conservation initiatives up close. So she set out on what she assumed could be a trustworthy journey there. In 1991, she chose to encompass a go-to to Australia Zoo, a small reptile park in Queens Landon. Her itinerary there, she were given to understand, Steve Irwin, a dynamic and ardent wildlife specialist. She was enthralled, whilst she first noticed him operating with crocodiles, formidable, vivacious and definitely committed to conservation. In turn, Terry's extensive knowledge and ardour for animals drew Steve of their not unusual goal, finally added them together, and what had all started as a fortuitous meeting soon became the beginnings of a romance that would forever change the face of wildlife conservation. Thousands and thousands of humans were inspired by means of the Irwin family. Ever when you consider that Steve Irwin's contagious electricity and excessive passion for natural world first seemed on TV, Terry made it her existence's attempt to maintain Steve's work after his premature loss of life in 2006. The world watched as Bindi and Robert embraced their father's ardour, even as developing up inside the spotlight with his unafraid love of crocodiles and his forever upbeat demeanour. Robert especially, without delay, received over fanatics as a favourite. But Robert's mom Terry and his admirers are extraordinarily involved. Approximately his latest changes, Steve and Terry. Irwin welcomed Robert Clarence Irwin into the world on December 1, 2003, in Bewdham, Queensland, Australia. Robert's youth at the Australia Zoo become the whole lot but traditional. His world turned into complete of kangaroos, koalas, and crocodiles in place of playgrounds and cartoons. Steve Irwin, his father, was continually there to teach him approximately animals and the want of retaining them. Tragically, Robert's father passed away in 2006, whilst he turned into simply 2 years. Antique. Robert would develop up hearing tales of Steve's mission and enthusiasm. Even if he become too younger to absolutely recognize the loss, Robert become delivered up to hold on his father's legacy. Thanks to the efforts of his mum Terry and sister Bindi, Irwin Robert looked much like Steve at the same time. As a little one, it changed into evident from his innate curiosity, spirit of adventure and affection for animals, that he changed into meant to hold on his father's process. Robert assumed extra duty and took part in public occasions as he grew older, turning into a great person at Australia Zoo. Robert's inherent charisma made him a best TV character. Similar to his father, his first widespread TV appearance became in his sister's environmental documentary collection Bindi the Jungle Female. As he grew older, he appeared on many talks suggest inclusive of The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, in which his passion and knowledge of animals thrilled viewers. Lovers felt as though a piece of Steve Irwin had back through Robert Burr due to the fact his interviews had been reminiscent of his very own media appearances. Robert became greater energetic in coping with the animals, teaching guests and wearing out conservation initiatives on the Australia Zoo. He became, in particular, interested in photography and used his expertise to create impactful nature pics that helped spread attention of endangered animals. As a distinguished conservationist of his time, he collaborated along with his mother and sister on applications that traced cognizance and guarded flora and fauna. By the time he became a youngster, Robert Weiser, international fame and natural world conservationist, he obtained renowned honours for his difficult work and devotion, and he prompted hundreds of thousands of human beings global to defend the environment and animals. Robert became both honoured and suffering from the reality that many human beings believed he would turn out to be the subsequent Steve Irwin. He widespread his father's mission, even though there have been high expectations of him. His romances have, however, on occasion drawn notice from the public. Robert commenced courting Rory Bucky, the late actor Heath Ledger's niece, in November 2022 by way of going to the most reliable of Mission Impossible: Lifeless Reckoning Part 1, together in July 2023. The couple made their romance public. Moreover, they posted snapshots of themselves collectively on social media to show off their romance. However, after approximately 18 months of dating, Robert and Rory declared their friendly separation in February 2024, pointing out that they respected one another and wanted to pursue two different dreams. It claimed that Robert changed into seeing Australia Zoo co-worker Charlotte Briggs after He broke up with Rory. They shared a flirty show in a resort foyer after being spotted collectively at Sydney Airport in Sydneyport in July 2024. Robert and Charlotte did not overtly well known their relationship in spite of frequent sightings consistent with reviews. Robert Irwin is unmarried as of February 2125. He has stated that he wants to keep on his circle of relatives' history of wildlife safety by means of concentrating on his professional and private development. Even though he is still well, Robert chooses to preserve his personal connections, personal and out of the general public eye. But what transpired that affected his transformation? Roberthus visible a dramatic exchange in latest years which has precipitated admirers to marvel and fear Robert, who became previously renowned for his youthful elegance and limitless vitality, has modified exceedingly in each look and way. His bodily appearance and style have evolved. A few have noticed a shift from his typical laid-back, outdoorsy persona. His public persona appears to have changed. He not exudes the youthful enthusiasm he once did, and his tone has turned out to be greater guarded. He appears to be heading off the limelight, which increases questions on his emotional and mental fitness. Stress and expectations also had a substantial impact on him. Robert turned into, often as compared to his father, due to the fact he changed into Steve Irwin's son, developing up. Despite the fact that he constantly paid tribute to Steve's memory, the strain of such needs might have worn him down. Did he feel an excessive amount of pressure to stay up to his father's expectations? Was Robert having trouble defining himself apart from his circle of relatives' subculture? Robert may additionally be navigating his personal route in a society in which he has constantly been defined through the legacy of others, as many young adults cross through durations of self-discovery. Robert may be setting apart himself from Australia Zoo and the conservation effort that has characterized his life, in keeping with rumors which have surfaced in line with other assets. He desires to pursue new pastimes and doubtlessly pursue different expert routes. Some others suppose he's taking a while to grow. In my opinion, something he become in no way capable to accomplish while within the highlight all of the time, no matter his unwavering willpower to wildlife protection. There are rumors that he's probably redefining his function within the enterprise, in line with reviews, whose skill the tragic lack of her husband has been profoundly impacted by way of Robert's change. Seeing Robert expand in surprising approaches has been an emotional experience for a mum who has committed her life to upholding Steve's vision. Terry may be devastated by the concept of Robert forsaking the Irwin circle of relatives' records due to the fact she has usually been very protecting of her youngsters. Certainly, one of the maximum devastating matters a mum can go through is seeing her infant go through in keeping with the ones close to the family. She has discovered it difficult to trust that the son who used to appear so vibrant is now coping with a private disaster. She's always been quite defensive of her kids, making sure they have been raised in a loving and meaningful placing. However, no amount of defense can keep Robert safe from anything non-public problems he's probably coping with. She has really been nervous via the prospect of losing Robert no longer physically, but emotionally. It's an exceptional type of disappointment to see him change into a person she hardly ever recognizes, and no mother ought to must undergo that. Even though many humans are worried about Robert's shift, it is essential to maintain in thoughts that alternate is a regular aspect of existence. Young adults enjoy phases, and every now and then moving on from the beyond is crucial for private development. Maybe Robert is simply searching for himself, far from his father's shadow. He might also sense the urge to forge his own route, now that he has been in comparison to Steve his entire existence. This may entail taking up new interests, changing his look, or maybe briefly leaving the circle of relatives' enterprise, although asserts Terry. His own family will possibly again him if that's what he needs to do to discover who he's second. It'll take time to decide whether Robert is actually leaving the Irwin heritage, or if this transformation is best transitory fanscan. Wish that he'll finally revert to his preceding self. If that is simplest a section, if it is everlasting, then maybe this is just Robert accepting himself as he is aside from his father's legacy. Additionally, his circle of relatives might need to tolerate it if it makes him happy. There's no doubt that Robert has the steadfast help of his own family and tens of millions of admirers worldwide. No matter what he comes to a decision to do, even though Terry can be crying out of unhappiness and fear her tears, also show how plenty she loves her son. She can usually be there for him as she has been, considering that the start, regardless of what Terry Irwin's tears aren't simply unhappy ones, they may be in precisely following Steve's route, by way of maintaining open strains of communique, supplying steadfast help and presenting encouragement. Above all, Terry can remind Robert that proper legacy is ready purpose, as opposed to copying his. Ardor for wildlife will always keep on his father's legacy, whether or not he stays at Australia Zoo or pursues any other route. The actual query is whether or not Robert will decide to pursue an exceptional career route or return to his obligation as a natural world warrior. One element is clear. Terry will assist him through every mission that lies ahead, from inheriting his father's legacy to going through a personal transformation. Robert Irwin's journey affords insightful data, approximately perseverance, identification, and personal development. We learn the fee of coming across your own identification from his narrative and Terry Irwin's steadfast assist. Even though everybody should forge their very own route, Robert has lived his whole existence in Steve Irwin's shadow. His story serves as a reminder that we can recognize our history without having to stay up to the expectations of others. Finding our proper selves leads to true fulfillment, individual's trade, and its proper adjustments in viewpoint private, development, or profession paths, shave to all be welcomed rather than feared. Robert's alternate suggests that he's touring in preference to letting pass of his, beyond the way Terry Irwin helped Roberta's evidence of the energy of love tolerance and compassion. She helps him without pressuring him to conform, demonstrating that actual guide is letting someone increase in line with their very own terms. Steve Irwin left behind a legacy that extended beyond crocodile wrestling to encompass conservation education, and exuberance in line with Robert's tale. Passing on a legacy involves upholding the equal principles in our personal specific manner, as opposed to replicating a person else's life. Being within the highlight sometimes is too much to handle. We don't owe each person and reason for our own personal improvement, as Robert's exchange serves as a reminder. We need to position our personal fitness earlier than what other people suppose, whether we're well known or no longer. For intellectual and emotional fitness, it could sometimes be necessary to distance oneself from duties, expectations, or public scrutiny. Robert Course shows us that preventing is an important component of self-discovery. Now, not a signal of failure, at its core, Robert Irwin's transformation is a story of maturing self-discovery. Andre's definition of reason. His ardor for nature endures irrespective of whether or not he follows in his father's footsteps or takes an extraordinary route we need to all research. That finding contentment in our personal manner is what real fulfillment is all about, no longer following a predetermined direction.